You're dying, but still answering emails. You're swallowing your tears in the office bathroom because the meeting starts in 5 minutes. You're laughing at the family group chat while secretly thinking about disappearing for a few days, or forever. And the sickest part? No one notices. Because you're good at pretending. Fucking great at it. And pretending is killing you slower than the pain, but it still kills you.
He didn't wake up one day and decide to lie. It wasn't some big, dramatic choice. Pretending to be okay started as a survival tactic. A quick fix, a temporary workaround. I'll deal with this later. Not the time. Just need to make it through this week. But you kept deferring the breakdown. You kept stuffing everything deep down like you were folding pain into a suitcase that never quite closed. And eventually, the pretending stopped being a tool. It became your default setting. Now you're the person who smiles during Zoom calls, who makes a joke when you're dead inside, who says, "All good, no worries," while slowly burning out at the edges. You're not acting anymore. This isn't a role, it's your identity now. The mask? It fused to your fucking skin. And what's worse? It works. No one checks in on the one who seems okay. No one questions the quiet achiever. No one thinks to ask how you're really doing when you're still meeting deadlines and replying with emojis. You became easy to be around, predictable, low maintenance. But inside, you're unraveling. In silence, alone. And every time you say, "I'm fine," some deeper part of you gets quieter, smaller, more distant. They call it strength, that ability to swallow your pain and carry on. But it's not strength. It's desperation in a business casual outfit. It's like living in a burning building, but still making small talk so nobody panics. And yeah, you got good at it. So good that even you started doubting your own distress. Am I just being dramatic? Maybe it's just hormones. Other people have it worse. You gaslight yourself before anyone else has the chance. But your body knows. It always does. You stop sleeping right. You lose your appetite or start eating everything. Your shoulders stay tense for weeks. Your chest feels heavy for no reason. You start saying, "You're tired," but what you really mean is, "I'm done." Still, no one sees it, because you keep posting pictures, showing up, performing. And why? Because you were taught that being honest makes people uncomfortable, that admitting pain is awkward, that vulnerability is shameful. So, you adapt. Not out of choice, but necessity. You hide not because you're weak, but because you learned that truth makes you less lovable. And once that belief sinks in, you stop showing up for yourself too. It's self-abandonment dressed up as being strong. You tell everyone, "I'm just tired," but what you mean is, "I haven't felt myself in months." You say, "I'm just busy," but what you mean is, "I'm avoiding the silence because it's too fucking loud in here." The mask is so tight now, you forgot there was ever a real face underneath. And the tragedy? The more you lie to stay functional, the more invisible you become, even to yourself. You don't know if you actually like being around people or if you just perform connection out of habit. You don't know if you care or if you're just mimicking the emotions of someone who would. You've turned into a hollow replica of yourself. And you could live like that for years. Most people do. They keep performing until the performance becomes all that's left. But the question is, do you want that to be you? Do you want to spend the next decade faking it so well that no one ever knows you needed help? Or do you want to start clawing your way back to something real? I'm not saying you need to confess everything to everyone. You don't have to post a mental health TED Talk. But maybe, just maybe, Start by telling yourself the fucking truth. I'm not okay. And I don't have to be. And I don't owe anyone a version of me that's easy to digest. Because the only way out of this beautiful, polished, quiet self-destruction is to stop pretending you're surviving and start giving yourself permission to fucking exist.
You know what's worse than being depressed? Being depressed and made to feel guilty about it. That's what toxic positivity does. It gaslights you with a smile. It weaponizes good vibes and shoves them down your throat like medicine you didn't ask for. You show up to work, barely holding your shit together, and your manager drops a casual, "Just focus on the positives." You try to open up to your mom, and she cuts you off with, "You have so much to be grateful for." You post something real online, just one fucking moment of honesty, and here come the comments. "Stay strong. Everything happens for a reason. Your energy attracts your reality." Let's be honest, most of that is just socially acceptable silencing. It's not about helping you, it's about making your pain more convenient for everyone else. Because real emotions are messy, they disrupt meetings, they kill the vibe, they can't be monetized. So instead, they slap on a filter, they rebrand your suffering as growth. They tell you your breakdown is a spiritual awakening. They rename burnout as a challenge. They tell you it's not depression, you're just out of alignment. Fuck that. You're not out of alignment, you're drowning in a system that demands your silence. You ever notice how people only care about your feelings when those feelings are easy to digest? When you're crying quietly. When your anxiety doesn't delay deadlines. When your trauma comes with a redemption arc. But try being angry. Try saying you're not grateful. Try admitting that you can't see a silver lining and watch the discomfort flood the room. People don't want honesty. They want decorum. They want your pain sterilized, shrink-wrapped, and hashtagged with something hopeful. And it's everywhere. In HR emails that say, "Take care of your wellness," while giving you 300 tasks. In churches that tell you God is testing you when you're suicidal. In the wellness industry, where influencers film yoga routines in Bali while selling $99 healing bundles to people who can't afford therapy. Positivity has become a product, and pain, it's a branding liability. So what do? You comply. You fake it. You say, "I'm grateful," through clenched teeth. You post that one vacation pic, even though your phone gallery is full of screenshots from when you wanted to disappear. You get really good at selling the illusion, at crafting a version of yourself that people can cheer for. And maybe you start to hate yourself, not just for being sad, but for not being inspirational about it. Because we've been conditioned to believe that pain only has value if it leads to a TED Talk, if it becomes a lesson, if it makes someone else feel better. But what if your pain doesn't make anyone stronger? What if you're not learning shit right now? What if you're just exhausted? There's no Instagram quote for that. There's no brand deal in admitting you feel like you're disappearing. There's no good vibes only slogan that makes disassociation feel less like dying. Here's the raw truth. You are allowed to hate where you are. You are allowed to not be okay. You are allowed to want to scream when someone tells you to just think positive. Because maybe positivity isn't the antidote. Maybe it's the poison when it's forced. Real healing? It doesn't come wrapped in fairy lights. It looks like crying in the shower at 3 a.m. It looks like canceling plans because your chest is too heavy to leave the house. It looks like being honest about the fact that you don't want to wake up tomorrow and not being judged for saying it out loud. But society doesn't know what to do with that kind of rawness. So they shrink it, they tame it, they teach you to reframe your suffering into something more palatable. And when you can't,
They label you difficult, negative, too emotional, too much. No one wants to admit this, but I will. Sometimes there isn't a lesson in the pain. Sometimes it's just pain, senseless, unfair, crippling. And that's valid. That's real. You shouldn't have to wrap your grief in gratitude to be taken seriously. You shouldn't have to be polite about your sadness to be worthy of care. The truth is, forced positivity is emotional censorship. And it doesn't make people better, it makes them disappear. So if you're tired of smiling through it, of pretending it's all part of some bigger plan, good. That's your signal. That's the part of you that still wants truth more than applause. Honor that part. Feed it. Let it breathe. You don't have to look on the bright side. You just have to stay alive long enough to see the day where you can feel something real again. And if that day isn't today, that's okay too.
You might not say it out loud. Hell, maybe you don't even have the words yet, but your body knows. Your body's been telling the truth long before your mouth ever dared to. It starts quietly. Little things you brush off. You can't sleep like you used to. Your stomach tightens every time your phone buzzes. You feel exhausted after doing things that used to energize you. Talking to friends, watching a show, even going outside. And then it grows. The tension migrates. You start grinding your teeth at night. Your chest feels like it's being squeezed by a fist that never lets go. You get headaches that no amount of water or Advil can fix. You tell yourself you're just stressed, just tired, just overwhelmed. But your body is screaming. It's just doing it in a language you've been taught to ignore. Because here's the thing they don't teach you growing up. When you suppress emotions, your body stores them. Every feeling you weren't allowed to express, it doesn't disappear, it relocates. That time you wanted to cry but held it in because this isn't the time, that anger you swallowed at work so you wouldn't be labeled difficult, that grief you never acknowledged because everyone else seemed to move on faster than you, your body remembers. Trauma isn't just some dramatic event. It's the accumulation of being emotionally muted over and over again. It's years of forced composure. It's learning, slowly and painfully, that your feelings are inconvenient, so they must be silenced. But silence doesn't heal, it festers. The nervous system is not a damn filing cabinet. You don't just store things and walk away. Your body reacts. It adapts. You become hyper-alert. Your heart races over nothing. You flinch at harmless sounds. You freeze mid-conversation and don't even know why. That's not weakness. That's biology. Studies from the American Psychological Association show that chronic emotional suppression is directly linked to higher rates of autoimmune disease, high blood pressure, insomnia, and, no surprise, major depressive disorder. Translation: faking it is literally making you sick. But we don't talk about that, do we? We praise the strong ones, the stoic, the ones who just keep going. We never ask what they had to kill inside themselves to keep up that performance. You're expected to keep functioning, even while falling apart internally, because emotions don't fit the schedule. Grief doesn't look good on a resume. Anxiety doesn't play well in a staff meeting. So you tuck it all away and call it resilience. But resilience without release, it's not strength, it's slow suicide. Your body is not the enemy. That anxiety isn't betrayal. It's a fucking alarm. It's your nervous system saying, I can't do this anymore. It's your breath catching because your soul is screaming in a room you've boarded shut. And look, you can numb it for a while. With caffeine, with alcohol, with Netflix, with endless scrolling and empty sex and online shopping. You can drown the signals in noise. But the body always keeps score.
and it will collect the debt, one way or another. Eventually, it breaks through. You'll wake up and realize you're crying before your eyes even open. You'll feel your heart racing while sitting still. You'll feel like you're dying when all you did was walk into a grocery store. That's not irrational. That's your system screaming for you to listen. But we don't give ourselves permission to pause. We think burnout is something you solve with a vacation. We treat depression like a personality flaw. We treat exhaustion like a badge of honor. And then we wonder why we feel dead inside while doing everything right. So here's the truth, the one no one wants to say. If your body is breaking down, it's not betrayal. It's truth. It's the raw, unfiltered truth you've spent years trying to bury under a fake smile. Maybe you learned early that your feelings weren't safe. Maybe the first time you cried, someone mocked you. Maybe you learned to be the peacekeeper, the caretaker, the strong one. Maybe every time you spoke up, the world told you to shut it back down. So now, you keep quiet. You smile. You say, "I'm good." But inside, your organs are carrying grief like unpaid rent. You can't therapy your way out of a body that's begging for you to feel. You can't journal your way through emotional neglect while still living inside a nervous system on fire. What you need isn't more mindset hacks. You don't need a gratitude challenge. You don't need 10 affirmations and a peppermint oil diffuser. You need to fucking listen. To yourself. To the part of you that's begging for rest, not productivity. For space, not solutions. For truth, not performance. You don't have to earn the right to feel. You're already human. That's permission enough. So the next time your body sends you a message, a tight chest, a panic wave, a tear you didn't see coming, don't shove it down. Don't call it weakness. Don't package it in fake positivity. Sit with it. Hear it. Let it say what your mouth was trained to silence. Because maybe your body is the only part of you that still refuses to lie. And maybe that's where healing starts.
Let's get something straight right now. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not dramatic. You are not too sensitive. You are fucking exhausted. And honestly, that makes perfect sense. You've spent years pretending your feelings don't exist just to make other people comfortable. You've been pushing through panic attacks like they're traffic delays. You've shown up to meetings, to family events, to social outings, all while carrying an emotional weight no one else can see. You've been operating on emotional fumes for so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to wake up without dread in your chest. But here's the part that cuts deep. You still blame yourself for not being okay. You think if you just tried harder, meditated more, worked out, journaled, woke up earlier, fixed your fucking mindset, then maybe you'd feel human again. Let me tell you something nobody says out loud. It's not your mindset that's fucked. It's the system you're stuck in. This culture doesn't want you well. It wants you functional. It wants you compliant, productive, marketable, even if it costs you your sanity. You live in a world that glorifies overwork and calls it ambition, that applauds your burnout as dedication, that punishes rest and worships busyness. No wonder you feel like shit. You've been gaslit into believing that being tired means you're weak, that wanting peace means you're ungrateful, that needing help makes you a burden. But let me say this loud and clear. Rest is not laziness. Crying is not failure. Not wanting to grind 24/7 doesn't mean you lack discipline. It means you're alive. Still. Barely, but alive. And if that's where you are right now, clinging to the edge, whispering, "I can't keep doing this," into my pillow at 2 a.m., I want you to hear me. There's nothing wrong with you.
You've just been running on survival mode for so long that your body, your heart, your spirit is finally calling bullshit. It's done pretending. It's done performing. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's your soul saying, I'm not going to let you keep abandoning yourself just to meet expectations I never agreed to in the first place. You don't need a 5-step plan. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need to become your best self. You need to fucking breathe. You need to feel and not apologize for it. You need to let yourself be human, which means messy, loud, quiet, chaotic, numb, angry, hopeful, tired, all of it. Sometimes all in the same hour. Because the truth is, you are not a problem to be solved. You are not an algorithm. You are not a to-do list. You are not a brand. You are a breathing, bleeding, aching collection of stories that no one else fully understands, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone a polished version of your pain. You're allowed to not be okay. You're allowed to take up space, to cancel plans, to ghost people for a while, to leave texts unanswered, to cry in the middle of a sentence, to feel fucking nothing for a whole week and then suddenly everything at once. You don't have to explain it. Let that sink in. You don't have to explain why you're tired, why you're not responding, why you haven't bounced back yet. You don't owe recovery to anyone, not even to yourself. Sometimes healing looks like rage. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like sleep. Sometimes it looks like barely making it to the shower. And sometimes it just looks like surviving another hour without giving up. That's enough. That's fucking enough. Because you being here, still breathing, still trying, still listening to this means that some part of you hasn't given up completely. Some part of you still wants truth over bullshit, still wants connection over performance. So don't ignore that part. Feed it. Nurture it. Let yourself rest. Not so you can be more productive tomorrow. Fuck that. Rest because your nervous system is begging for a break. Rest because you're tired of pretending. Rest because you deserve to exist in a world where survival isn't the minimum requirement for belonging. And if that world doesn't exist yet, we'll build it. But we have to start by unlearning the lie that exhaustion means failure. You're not broken. You are tired. You are grieving the life you were promised but never got to live. You are swimming through a culture that rewards your silence and punishes your truth. But you are still here, still standing. And maybe, just maybe, that's a form of rebellion too.
There's this lie we've all learned to tell, not once, but constantly, automatically. I'm fine. Those two words have covered more pain than any pill ever could. They've silenced breakdowns, buried panic attacks. They've turned emotional hemorrhages into polite nods and fake smiles. But here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Every time you say, I'm fine, when you're not, you are abandoning yourself. You are choosing the performance over your personhood. You're saying, my comfort doesn't matter as long as no one else is uncomfortable. And that seems harmless, even admirable, until you realize how deeply it erodes your sense of self. Because pretending doesn't just hide the pain, it creates a split. There's the version of you the world sees, calm, funny, productive, chill. And then there's the version buried underneath, the one nobody knows. The one who wakes up with dread, the one who zones out in conversations and forgets what joy feels like, the one who's been quietly whispering, I can't keep doing this for months now. You're living two lives,
and neither one of them feels real anymore. And the more you perform, the more lost you become. Because pretending requires constant editing. You monitor your tone, your facial expressions, your reactions, your presence, your absence. You become an expert in social camouflage. And before you know it, you're not being, you're curating. You're not expressing, you're managing perception. You're not living, you're performing survival in a way that looks like you've got it all together. And you might even get praised for it. People will say, "You're so strong. You're always so put together. I don't know how you do it." And that praise, it becomes a fucking trap. Because the moment you try to be real, to cry, to rage, to say, "I'm not okay," you risk losing the very validation your performance created. So you keep faking, and hating yourself for faking, and wishing someone, anyone, could see through the act. But they won't, because your mask is seamless. And here's where it gets darker. You start gaslighting yourself. You convince yourself that your pain isn't that bad, that you're overreacting, that other people have it worse, that you're just tired, that if you rest you'll bounce back, that if you stay quiet, it'll pass. But it doesn't pass, because you're not just tired, you're spiritually malnourished. You've gone too long without being seen, without being honest, without giving your body, your heart, your mind the permission to just fall apart. Because that's what healing starts with, the collapse. But you can't collapse when you're still trying to impress people. You can't grieve when you're still worried about being likable. You can't reconnect with yourself while playing the character you built to survive. Let that sink in. Pretending is not kindness. It's emotional self-erasure. It's building a life where the real you is locked in the basement while the public version hosts the party. And that kind of internal exile, it kills. Not quickly, not loudly, but slowly, subtly, elegantly. You stop feeling things all the way. You stop trusting your own reactions. You stop reaching out for help because you've trained everyone to believe you don't need it. You start disappearing from yourself. And nobody notices. Because on the outside, nothing's changed. You're still making jokes, still posting selfies, still getting shit done. But on the inside, you're screaming into a room that looks exactly like your own life. And look, I get why you do it. Pretending keeps the peace. It keeps people around. It avoids awkward conversations. It lets you function. But what's the cost? Is that peace really peace or just silence? Are those people really there for you, or do they just like the version of you that doesn't make waves? Are you functioning or just not dead yet? You can't keep living like this and expecting to feel whole. Eventually, something has to give. And if you don't choose to let go of the performance, your body, your mind will do it for you. You'll crash. You'll break. You'll scare yourself with how much rage, grief, numbness comes pouring out all at once. That's not failure. That's backlog. That's what happens when you neglect your truth for too long. So what do? Start small. Tell someone you trust, "I'm not doing great." Let yourself cancel plans without guilt. Let yourself cry without a reason. Let yourself rest without earning it. And most of all, let yourself stop pretending. You don't have to become raw and open with everyone, but you do have to stop lying to yourself. Because that lie, "I'm fine," is slowly erasing the only version of you that matters, the real one. So no, you're not weak for feeling. You're not selfish for needing space. You're not broken for wanting more than survival. You are a full, complex, brilliant, wounded human being, and you deserve a life that reflects that. Not a role, not a costume, not a performance. A fucking life.
So here you are, still breathing, still pretending, maybe. Still fighting through the noise in your head that tells you to shrink, to smile, to not ruin the mood. But maybe something's shifting now. Maybe something cracked while you were listening. And not the bad kind of crack, not a collapse. A crack in the mask. A fault line. The beginning of truth leaking through. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry all this alone. You were never built to be low maintenance in exchange for love. You were never supposed to become someone easy to digest just so you wouldn't be left behind. But that's what you've been taught, right? That love is earned, that presence requires performance, that pain needs a PR strategy, that only the palatable parts of you are allowed to be seen. And maybe you believed that for too long. Maybe you buried yourself under "I'm fine" for so many years that the silence became a second skin. But look at you. Still here. Still listening. Still feeling something. That means the part of you that refuses to disappear is still alive. And that part? That's the real you. The one who feels too much. The one who overthinks, cries in parking lots, stares at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if any of this means anything. That part is sacred. It's not a flaw. It's not too much. It's the exact fucking proof that you haven't gone numb all the way. Not yet. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to fix yourself. Maybe you just need to come back to yourself. The unedited version, the messy one. The one you've been hiding behind good posture and polite smiles and over-apologizing for taking up space. But despite everything, you still want to be seen. Not just liked, seen. And that's why this matters. Because pretending to be okay doesn't make you stronger. It makes you invisible. It makes your pain easier to ignore for everyone else. But you're the one paying the price. Every fake smile, every choked back truth, every "no worries" text when you're falling apart, it costs something. And the longer you do it, the harder it gets to remember who you were before pretending became your full-time job. So here's the moment. The permission you've been waiting for but didn't know you needed. You can stop performing now. You don't have to be the strong one. You don't have to be the funny one. You don't have to be the emotionally bulletproof, always on, always available version of yourself that everyone else seems to love. You're allowed to be raw. You're allowed to be soft. You're allowed to fucking break. And you don't owe anyone a comeback story. You can rest without earning it. You can exist without editing it. You can say, "I'm not okay," and let that be the end of the sentence, not the start of a motivational quote. And yeah, some people won't get it. Some people will leave when the performance ends. Let them. Anyone who needs you to shrink to stay isn't company, they're captivity. And the real ones? The ones who've sat in silence, held their breath, and survived dark nights of their own? They'll recognize you. They'll say, "Same." And that's where healing begins. Not in fixing everything, but in not having to hide anymore. So if no one's told you today, you're not alone.
You're not defective. You're not a burden. You're not too much. You're tired. You're human. And you're fucking sacred. You don't need to perform wellness to deserve love. You don't need to fake joy to be worthy of staying. You're enough, exactly as you are, even if all you did today was survive.
If you felt this in your chest, if this hit you somewhere you haven't been able to talk about yet, send this to someone who's pretending to. The one who laughs loud but cries in silence. The one who always says, "I got it," even when they're falling apart. Because maybe they need to know what you needed to hear. You don't have to keep dying in secret just to make the world comfortable.